Hello, and welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I'm Gloria Polites of LTC, your host for this episode. And with me in the studio is Dr. Felicia Stoler, who is a registered dietitian nutritionist, among many other titles, and who has something that I think we all want to hear, how we can lose weight without doing all those dieting things and things that never work. Right. Basically. She's studied this for quite a while, and she has a lot to tell us about this.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a lot of fun talking about it, you know. Well, I think it's easy, but that's because, you know, I've been living it, doing it, and, you know, working in the area for such a long time. So I like to say the healthy choice is the easy choice. You just have to make it. But...
So you're going to help us
I'm
with
going to
how
help
to do
everybody
that.
here how to do that.
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's great, because we all need it.
Yeah.
So where would you like to start?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know. Well, we could start on your side of the table.
Okay. With your book?
You can start with my book, Living Skinny and Fat Genes, The Healthy Way to Lose Weight and Feel Great. It's sort of a play on word with the word genes, you know, G-E-N-E-S versus J-E-A-N-S. You know, women always talk about their skinny genes.
Right, right. We always have trouble getting into some of this things.
That's right. And I tell this really cute story at the beginning of the book about a PowerPoint presentation that I saw early on in my career where someone, of course, put a cartoon up because, you know, we love cartoons in our PowerPoints. And humor's always great, where it's a guy sitting across from his doctor and he says, "Doc, fat genes run in my family." And the doctor says, "No, nobody in your family runs." So, you know, people are often blaming their DNA for why they're overweight or obese. And the truth is there some truth to fat genes? Slightly, but what we know from all the research that's been published is that it's all about behaviors, and behaviors meaning what you eat and sort of like the sum of your habits and behaviors. So therefore, it's really the environment that impacts your weight. It's not necessarily your parents. So unless, you know, take into consideration that, you know, you grow up in a household learning how to eat from the family members around you. So therefore, if you're accustomed to eating very large portions all the time, or if the food that you're consuming, maybe there's not a lot of plant foods, maybe there's not a lot of fiber, and there's a lot of fat in it, and that's the way you've become accustomed to eating, then that's what's your normal, and, you know, that has to, you know, be undone if you're not, you know, where you are with your health goals, because it's not just about the number on the scale, it's really about overall health and well-being.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And it seems to me you mentioned something about the brain having something to do with all of this.
That's right, right. So thinking about the brain weight and the brain being in charge of sort of what we call the set point theory. So it's not how much your brain weighs, because our head is about 10 pounds. It's almost like the size of a bowling ball, excuse me. And it's not about your brain per se, like getting larger and smaller. We know that that doesn't necessarily, well, maybe when we get a lot older it does shrink, but for right now, we'll think about it in terms of really what the control of the brain is. And the brain is sort of like mission control, like NASA, you know. It controls all systems in the body. It wants to have this, what we call homeostasis, this sort of like, you know, we want our blood pH and our blood sugar level and hormones to be in a certain place. Well, it also wants to keep our body weight in a certain place. It's all like a feedback system. And so what happens is, if you're at a particular weight for a long period of time, if you lose weight too quickly, whether it be by some kind of fad diet that you're doing, or if you have an illness or something, you know, what's going to happen is your body's going to want to go back to where it was comfortable. So when I counsel patients, I always ask them, what was your highest adult body weight? What was your lowest adult body weight? And what is the weight where you feel, where your body has stayed without much effort? You know, because that's what we think of as, that's your sort of usual body weight, your set point. So when people are trying to lose weight, the most important thing to think about is losing weight gradually, so that when you get to this plateau, we often think of a plateau being a bad thing in weight loss. I think of it as a good thing when I'm counseling people. I say, listen, let's stay at that weight for a little while, let your body readjust. It's like recalibrating, you know, and it's like the GPS. When you get to a certain destination, it needs to like recalibrate where you are. So it's really getting accustomed to where you are, and then being able to continue with your weight loss goals, you know, from there. So that's what we mean by sort of your brain weight. Yeah.
So once you get to that plateau and you've been there a while, What do
then
you
you
do?
start making some changes, right?
Okay.
So let's talk about what some changes are that people can make. So when I tell people I'm a dietitian, the first thing they say to me is, I don't like to eat carbs. I don't eat carbs. I'm like, wait. You know, especially being a sports nutritionist, your brain and your body need carbohydrates for fuel. It is probably the most important fuel that we use. And I like to think of it like gas in your car. So we have to put gasoline in our car, the tank gets empty, we have to put more in. I mean, we could certainly fill it up with other stuff, right? You could put water in your tank, it will make the gauge go to full, but that's not gonna make the car go. So carbohydrates really are the fuel that we need. So, you know, so some things that I sort of like to think about. So right in front of you, that is 1 cup of pasta that was dry 1 cup when I cooked that. So that's probably popped up, and I really pushed that down to the container. That's probably a little bit more than a cup, maybe 1.5 cups of pasta. That's more than 2 servings of pasta right there. When we go to a movie theater, I know, you know, when I go with my kids, we usually share the large, but that's like 2 or 3 people sharing it versus getting a small popcorn. So these are areas where, you know, again, when you're sitting and eating and you're mindlessly eating, it's very easy to overeat. So, but popcorn is a good carb, more or less. It has fiber in it. I want people to know that. And so something else that can be a tool in one's toolbox is using something like a carb blocker. So what I brought here is Phase 2, which is a branded ingredient, which is found in GNC and Vitamin Shop. Actually have it, and I brought you know, the natural one here and the GNC one here. And what this does is it helps to inhibit or block up to 65% of the carbohydrate consumed at that meal. So there is research that's been shown that people who use that on a regular basis can help them to lose up to 2 pounds of weight per week. And that's right along the lines of what we consider to be safe, 1/2 pound to no more than 2 pounds of weight loss per week. So for that person who's like, I gotta have that big thing of popcorn, or I know I'm going out for Italian and I might eat a large bowl of pasta, or I might eat the whole loaf of bread, there's something there for you. And I like to think of that, once you eventually get to your goal, I like to think of it like the training wheels on your bicycle. You know, it's something to help you as you're learning to cut your portions down. The other thing too, with having sort of carbohydrate foods, is making sure that you're either having fiber with them or having protein or fat. So like I brought an example here of an egg white sandwich with vegetables that's on some bread. And again, that's an important thing to consider. So not just eating carbs all by themselves, but you know, that would be like drinking juice, but making sure like, or like eating, you know, we hear sometimes people talk about like if you're gonna eat an apple, either have a piece of cheese with it, or have some peanut butter with it, or some other nut butter with it, or like I brought, you know, yogurt or cottage cheese. Like you don't want to just eat fruit by itself necessarily. You might want to have some protein with it. So I brought here, you know, and I love things that are single serve. This way you can't cheat yourself out of like, oh, I just want a little bit more. So cottage cheese is great because it's also high in protein. The same thing with Greek yogurts. They're a little bit higher in protein because they have less fluid in them. You know, almonds are terrific. I love nuts. Something else I really like, turkey jerky or chicken jerky in addition to beef jerky. And this is a chicken jerky that I brought, the Larissa's Kitchen. I think this is a real terrific product. They sell that a lot at Target, so that's really easy and accessible to have. And then making sure that you're drinking water. Water is really important. Our bodies are 70% water, so we need to consume lots of water. So I'll show you this adorable little water bottle that I have. You can actually squeeze your own citrus right into the bottom here. So creating your own citrus water. I know some people complain that they don't like to drink water, but you know, add a little flavoring to it. You know, is a great way to get you to drink more. And you know, be careful of things like sports drinks because they have a lot of extra calories in it. And you know, people think that because they exercise, they need a sports drink. You have to be exercising for over 60 minutes with extreme perspiration and not having had anything else to consume to really warrant using or needing a sports drink. You know, there's a 2-hour window of recovery after you exercise. So in terms of importance, we want to make sure we get water in, we want to make sure we get carbohydrates in, and protein and electrolytes. So those are some things that we want to get in right after we exercise.
So we want balance, basically.
Definitely balance between calories in and calories out. So if your goal is weight loss, you don't want to necessarily consume everything that you just sort of burned off. But the truth is we burn most of the fat for fuel at rest. And the ultimate state of rest is when we're sleeping. So the more muscle mass that we have on our body, the more fat we burn while we're sleeping, which is really important. So you can lose weight while you're sleeping.
That I like.
You know, and there's a lot of talk about sleep these days and how people are not getting enough sleep, and we need to get more sleep. Ariana Huffington from the Huffington Post, she started this whole awareness campaign about sleep because she realized that she wasn't getting enough sleep. And sleep apnea, for example, is a problem where people have breathing difficulties when they're sleeping, and it's not just nasal, sometimes it's their oral cavity. And again, sleep is when our bodies have the time to rest, recharge, repair, renew. Like we all plug our cell phones overnight, our body needs that time to really just rest and let all the cellular processes happen. And so not getting enough sleep can be really detrimental to your overall health and well-being in addition to your weight.
Oh, wow. It's interesting that you say that. I sing in my choir and I don't get enough sleep. And I find when I get there, luckily we rehearse before Mass, but my throat is closing more and it takes quite a while until everything gets kind of back to normal.
Right. Well, I'm sure you do exercises, right? Because singing is like exercise. My daughter sings, and I've heard her do lots of, vocal exercises, right, to get that warmed up, just like the rest of your body should be warmed up before you use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have, I think I saw 4 tips particularly for helping us follow your plan here?
Yeah, so one of the tips that is on there is that you don't want to demonize food groups. So demonizing food groups would be saying, I'm not going to eat blank. So that could be an absolute, like, I'm not going to eat any carbohydrates, right? We talked about that a little bit, and I think that that is really important for, for your viewers to understand that all foods can fit within moderation. It's really about portion, and it's about maybe making a healthier swap for some foods. So for example, this is a plain pasta. I'm not saying you have to have a whole wheat pasta, but there are some higher fiber pastas that are a little bit better. For people that are gluten-free, there are amazing options now. I mean, if you have celiac disease or you're gluten intolerant, this is a good time period to be living in, because 10 years ago there was not nearly the amount of products available. And I was just at your coffee shop down the street here, and there were a ton of gluten-free products available for people to eat. So I think it's wonderful that there's awareness and there's also access to other products that people can have. So I think that, it's about having options. Right. And then another tip is to give in to your cravings. So I didn't we ran out of room on the table here, but I was going to talk about chocolate, give in to your cravings. If you like to have things like a chocolate or ice cream or cake, you can have your cake and eat it too.
Oh, all right.
But just have a small amount of it. I think that is important. If I said to you, you could never eat chocolate again, what is something you're going to wish you were having?
Well, actually, for me, I'm not a big chocolate eater, but the rest of my family would be craving it.
Right. If I said to you, you could never eat chocolate again, you're like, oh my goodness, I just want to eat that piece of chocolate. So, again, not putting absolutes out there and giving into your cravings. It's better to eat a small amount of something that you love than to absolutely rule it out and say, I'm never going to eat it again.
That's good, because this is my craving.
Well, I'm a savory snacker, so I'm right there with you. I like salty snacks or savory snacks. I luckily can sit in front of an entire thing of chocolate and it doesn't get me excited.
Me too.
So, right.
So whatever your craving is, you can give into it.
Right. Definitely want to give into your craving.
In moderation.
Yes. All foods can fit in moderation.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So, in terms of the other tips that I have, making sure that you are moving and exercising. It's real easy to exercise and find ways to get more exercise in daily. We all have smartphones. A lot of the phones have physical activity trackers in here. So making sure that you turn them on and use them, it's a great way to see if you're moving. And all exercise and movement counts throughout the day. So like one of the tips that I used in my doctoral research, I did my research in worksite wellness, was to encourage all the people that had their desk jobs over an 8-hour day to get up and take a 5-minute walk. So for the person who's at work for 8 hours a day, if you take a 5-minute walk every hour, that's 40 minutes of accumulated physical activity that you can get, which maybe you wouldn't be able to take it all at one time.
Right, and you hardly even notice it.
That's
you're
right.
exercising.
That's right. Well, that's why I like to use the word physical activity. We use that word often in the sports medicine space, because when you say the E word, people get very intimidated by it. So, again, it's about physical activity. So, I don't know, I'm a lady that carries a very heavy pocketbook. So, it's a matter of, could I do bicep curls with my handbag? Could it be, holding a pocketbook or a backpack and doing squats or lunges with that? So using things around you as added weight is a great way to get some added physical activity in.
That would be great for me, because I usually have a heavy purse, but I also have my book bag for teaching, and I have my choir bags.
Right.
So that kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's right. So you could use that for physical activity as well. So you don't need to go to a gym. You don't even need to change your clothes. You just have to be careful of your footing, because I wouldn't want you to hurt yourself.
Right.
But just being able to move more is important.
And just everyday things, as you say.
That's right.
Not complicated.
That's right. No, it's I like to think it's not very complicated.
That's great.
And the other thing is, for folks who are trying to meet their health goals, to set attainable, health goals. So the recommended amount of weight that is safe to lose per week is 1/2 pound to up to 2 pounds per week. And I know sometimes people get frustrated. They want a quick fix. They want a fast fix. They always feel like, I want to do something that's going to have tremendous results. It's a big motivator. But the truth is, when you lose weight very rapidly, especially very quickly in a short period of time, you're usually losing water weight. You're not really using fat weight. And we can fluctuate up and down 3 to 4 pounds with just water weight alone. So that's not a true representation of weight loss.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are all great tips.
Yeah.
So it says, if you have fat genes, how intense should you? No, and maybe you want to explain fat genes a little bit more. What you mean by that?
Well, fat genes, really, it's about, again, if you descended from parents or grandparents that were overweight or obese. I mean, and the truth is, 50 years ago, obesity really wasn't an issue. So it's really what's happened here. So I just want people to know that they can sort of change their destiny, more or less, in terms of what our genes do tell us is how much muscle mass and how much bone density we're going to have, like what our maximum amount that we can achieve naturally will be. But again, like the example I gave early on, and I can even tell a little story about it. One of my very first patients that I had was a gentleman who lived at home, right after college. He worked on Wall Street. And he wrote out a 5-day food journal for me. And I was looking at it. And again, I'm not judging when I'm looking at it, but the portions as he described it to me really looked like he was eating 2 what would be entrees to you or I. Hopefully you or I. I definitely, I know what a proper portion is, but the amount of food and the volume of food that he was eating was so large that by the last day, went from eating these super large meals, and it was cute because he described on the 4th day, he described his Sunday supper that his mother made a meatball the size of your head, very large meatball. And, then the last day was salad and yogurt and, things that he perceived to be healthier. And at the bottom he wrote, now I know why I'm so fat. Sometimes I just ask people to write down what they're eating, because you don't realize what you eat every day or what you're drinking in terms of calories. And there are a lot of extra calories in beverages, and just because you're not chewing it doesn't mean it doesn't count.
So true.
Right. So, yeah.
That's a wonderful story. So we've got bad habits when it comes to eating. So what are some good ways to switch to good habits?
Right. So a great way to switch to your habits is look at your habits and see what's working and what's not working for you. So for example, if you come home from work and the first thing you do is you go to the refrigerator and you open up that door and you sit in front of it and then you start taking food out, that's not a good habit. So what I recommend you do when you come home from work is maybe you go get changed out of your work clothes, right? Put on something comfortable. And if you are hungry, consider either having something ready that you know is going to be a little snack to tide you over while you're going to eat dinner, or eat something before you leave your office, or leave something in your car to snack on that is a better for you option. So that would be an example. Taking a walk after dinner. You know, a lot of people do that. A lot of cultures I see in communities, people go out, especially when the weather's nice, maybe not in the middle of the winter, but going out for walks together, you know, after a meal, it helps with digestion, it helps keep you moving. So that would be an example of, you know, a better for you habit.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah.
So, what other advice can you give us?
Oh, well, I think sleep is important. Physical activity is really important. Something I didn't bring here today that I would just like to focus on, because it's something I like to just remind people, is eating more plant-based foods, eating more fruits and vegetables, and specifically more vegetables. You know, we hear a lot about eating protein, and protein is good, but protein, energy, malnutrition is not a problem in the United States. In fact, we tend to overeat protein and not eat enough fruits and vegetables, and specifically vegetables. And you know, vegetables are very inexpensive, and I don't care. They don't have to be organic. Produce does not have to be organic. I want people to know your foods do not have to be organic. I want to encourage people to eat food closer to the way it's found in nature, but eat what you can afford. So if it's frozen, if it's canned, if it's fresh, you know, as long as it's you know, clean, and we're practicing some good food safety habits, I think that that's really key. You know, you think about like a bag of lettuce, you know, like 2 cups of lettuce has like 15 calories. So it really doesn't have a lot of calories. You know, vegetables, eating things like carrots, peppers, you know, cucumbers, celery, whatever crunchy vegetables, zucchini. I like to take cold broccoli when I make a lot of broccoli for dinner. What's ever left over, I take it the next day and I like to chop it. And I I have lots of different choppers, and then I just put a little bit of salad dressing on it, and I use it that way too. Another thing is, you know, taking anything that's left over and making it into soup. That's another way that you can sort of repurpose your food, right, and make something. And in the wintertime, soup is really good food, so it's a great way to get extra veggies in. And if you have leftover chicken or turkey or beef, just throw it in a pot with some veggies and add some water and maybe add some stock to it, and there you go, you've got another meal. And then you can freeze it too in individual containers.
That's terrific.
You know, because food waste is a big problem in this country.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And especially, I happen to live alone, so, you know, I feel so guilty sometimes, but
yeah,
you know, when you're not home that much. But
right.
Those are good ideas, just, you know.
Yeah, and I've been doing, right now I've been in the process of making sure I eat everything that's in my freezer, so I always laugh. It's like, okay, I don't know what's in the container because I'm bad about labeling. So I don't know sometimes if it's soup, sauce, or stew. So I have to sometimes wait until I thaw it out to see what it was, because sometimes it all looks the same.
No, I think I heard you mention when you talked about vegetables and all that, and fruit, that canned and frozen are okay too?
Yes, they are.
Oh,
they
good.
are. And you know what? They're real easy. And I'm going to tell you a little secret, like my favorite. I have like 2 favorite canned vegetables. I love little baby peas, and I love canned asparagus. I know people might think that's disgusting. I grew up eating that. That is such comfort food to me. And I literally will come home from the gym and sometimes crack open a can of peas, and maybe with a hard-boiled egg and or a packet of tuna, and that is sort of my like after workout little snack that I make for myself. So.
Yeah. I'm with you on canned asparagus. Peas not so much, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, I know. The first time I ate like fresh asparagus that my mom tried making it, I thought it was so disgusting. And she clearly has, you know, over the years learned how to do it, but the first time she made it, it was so bitter. It tasted like earwax. It was so disgusting. But yeah, no, that is definitely one of my favorite foods. And my kids are like, ew, this is gross. Because they don't know from that, but I do enjoy that. And canned corn's another thing too. Like literally, you can take like Mexicorn and you can add that to any kind of canned beans, or you know, make your own bean, you know, from dried beans, reconstitute it and cook that, and then you can have like a little bean salad. And again, that's a great, easy thing to make. It lasts in the refrigerator. It's a great thing to bring to someone's house for a party too, where you can mix it over pasta or throw it into a salad.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You know, in the Franco-American community, we have something we call pâteau de chinois, Chinese pie, and it's
What is
pea.
that?
Yeah, it's peas and corn, and sometimes cream corn, and hamburger underneath, and then you put a layer of potatoes on it.
Oh, it's like a shepherd's
And
pie.
It's like a shepherd's pie.
Right.
Yeah, but then we usually break an egg over it too to make a little crust.
Oh,
on
how
top, and
cool
then
is
put that under the broiler. Yeah. So
Nice.
get a little bit of everything that way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Getting a little. You definitely are getting a little bit
Right.
of everything in there. Yeah, but it all counts. So, you know, it's certainly better than breaking out a bag of potato chips and eating that and thinking that's your vegetable.
And we're lucky in Lowell to have so many ethnic foods and ethnic restaurants.
Yeah.
So we can.
And you
put all
know,
kinds
if
of
you
things
look,
together.
if you look across cultures, I talk about this in my book.
good.
Most places in the world, people eat plant-based, and they use meat and things like fish for seasoning. They actually, if you travel outside of this country, you'll see that most people are using small amounts of meat for flavoring or as the side. It's not the entree the way it seems to be here.
Right.
So
The big steak and the.
right, exactly. I was at a seafood restaurant in New York not too long ago where they served fish. You could order it by the pound or half a pound, and it said on the menu that they recommend a pound per person. And I was like, really?
Whoa.
That's more like 3 or 4 servings is in a pound, because really a serving of protein for like you or I, you know, based on our height, we probably only need 6 ounces throughout the day of animal-sourced protein. So that's not a lot at all. It's like, you know, if you think about like the palm of your hand being about 3 ounces, it's maybe like 2 of those. So it's not a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So it really is kind of changing our habits and counting the portions and doing that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right, so.
Yeah.
And you certainly know what you talk about. We didn't talk about your background, but you went to Columbia and Rutgers, so.
Yes.
So you can believe what you said.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I worked hard at it, so.
All right. Well, we're about ready to wrap up. So people might want to contact you. Well, first of all, I'm assuming this is on Amazon and
Amazon and
bookstores
Barnes and Noble and yep.
Okay, all
yes,
right. So
yes.
Living Skinny and Fat Genes, GENES. And how can they contact you?
I'm on all social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. You can find me. I do a lot of microblogging using Twitter, so that's probably the best way to find me.
And
it says Felicia Stoler, and I have a website, feliciastoler.com.
FeliciaStoler.com.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here. This has been
you.
wonderful.
My
Now I'm going to change all
pleasure.
my habits, right? Or at least I'll try.
Or just a few at a time.
Right. Yeah, don't try it all at once, right?
That's right. That's right.
So thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next time on Thinking Out Loud.